Welcome to the Go Influence Life podcast, the place for people who want to rise above the noise, stand out from the crowd, and create lasting influence in leadership, business, and beyond. I'm your host, Christian Hansen. I'm the best-selling author of the LinkedIn Top 10 ranked book, The Influence Mindset, the art and science of getting people to choose you. Together, we're going to dive into inspiration, motivation, and application for success and influence. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the formula for success. If you're like me, you probably can remember the names of different formulas that we were forced to learn in school. But at the end of the day, a formula is merely a framework that if you apply it means you're going to get specific results. For example, there's a formula for figuring out the circumference of a circle or the Pythagorean theorem. Each of these are simply frameworks that if we apply them and use them correctly are going to give us results. But what about success? What is the formula for success? It turns out there is one, and this story is going to help us break it down into manageable ways that you can use in everyday life. On December 16th, 1954, Dr. Tracy Hall stared at the gigantic machine he had built and wondered, would it finally work? All his colleagues had left for the Christmas holiday, but Tracy had stayed behind in the lab to give the massive steel tubes and wires one last try. Years of hard work, study, and dogged determination had all led to this moment. But would it fail like all the others? Born in Ogden, Utah in 1919, Howard Tracy Hall wanted to grow up and be just like his hero, Thomas Edison. After serving in the Navy in World War II and completing his Ph.D. in physical chemistry from the University of Utah in 1948, Hall's dreams came true when he was hired by General Electric to work on the secretive Project Superpressure. The goal? To create diamonds in a lab. Since the 1797 discovery that diamonds are essentially pure carbon, alchemists, chemists, and outright charlatans had tried and failed to create the captivating crystals. However, at the height of the nuclear age, such dreams were finally within reach. If successful, a host of industrial capabilities like drilling, semiconductors, and life-saving medical devices would be opened. The only problem was, it was explosively dangerous. First was the heat. In order to get carbon right in the Goldilocks zone, it required temperatures upwards of 1,600 degrees centigrade, or about a third of the temperature of the surface of the sun. Next time you burn that pizza in the oven, imagine cranking it 7 times hotter. I'd like some genuine lava with my thin crust Hawaiian, please. Technically, it's more authentic. But generating heat was the easy part. It also took pressure. About 100,000 atmospheres per square inch to be precise. For context, if you took an African bull elephant at the average weight of about 5 tons and stacked 207,000 additional elephants on top of that one, you would then come close to the per square inch pressure needed to melt carbon into diamonds. Now, for the vertically curious among you, that many elephants would equal around 1,540 Empire State Buildings in height, or just enough to stretch end to end from Los Angeles to Tucson or London to Frankfurt. That's a lot of Dumbos for just one diamond. So Dr. Tracy Hall got to work. With the help of an on-site machinist working after hours, he eventually created his own diamond press out of 100% tungsten carbide. He assembled all the tubes and wires and began testing. After weeks of rocky starts, on December 16, 1954, Tracy Hall, by himself in the lab, ran the test one final time. Did it work? As the machine cooled, Tracy opened the chamber and later said, quote, "My hands began to tremble. My heart beat rapidly. My knees weakened and no longer gave support. My eyes had caught the flashing light from dozens of tiny crystals. I knew the diamonds had finally been made by man," he said. The only problem was No one believed him. Only after instructing his coworkers on exactly what to do, and by leaving the building to prove he wasn't involved, did General Electric officials finally believe him when they too created the process in Tracy's absence. Sadly, despite his triumph, Hall's days in GE's labs were numbered. As this achievement rapidly made headlines around the world, GE's intellectual property and business leaders didn't give Hall the credit he deserved, and GE went on to make millions with his work. Their thanks to Dr. Hall, a $10 savings bond. 1 year after his momentous discovery, he left GE and found himself teaching at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, where he would spend the rest of his career. There, he rebuilt a new tetrahedral press that cleverly skirted GE's intellectual property restrictions and started a company, Mega Diamond, a synthetic diamond manufacturer, in 1966. What does Dr. Hall's story have to do with influence and success? While there are many lessons, I think one of them is that Dr. Hall showed us that success is the combination of several things, which isolated by themselves aren't worth very much. Here's what I mean. Carbon plus heat plus pressure equals diamonds. Any one of these things by themselves are worthless. Carbon is everywhere, heat is replicable, and pressure, well, you probably feel it every day. But combined in the right amounts, you've got diamonds. Similarly, I've discovered the formula for success is delivering value to others plus increasing your skills plus persistence equals success. Just like carbon on its own isn't worth very much, delivering value to others without skills or persistence isn't worth much either. You may have a solution, but if you don't do it skillfully or persistently, it doesn't matter. The same goes with increasing your skills. You may be skilled, but if you aren't persistent and aren't delivering value in a meaningful way, it doesn't matter. And lastly, if you skillfully offer an amazing solution but are not persistent, others will pass you by. However, when value, skills, and persistence are combined, you'll get diamonds, which is the secret of Dr. Hall. He didn't invent carbon, heat, or pressure. Rather, his genius was finding a way to hold them all together in the same space for a long enough time to reach his goal. So, what about you? Are you skillfully and persistently spinning your wheels? Look for ways to increase the value you offer to others. Maybe you have an idea that is valuable and you have what it takes to deliver it well, but you're struggling to make it happen. Look for ways to be more persistent. Or is it possible you serve people in a way that makes a difference but want to upgrade how you do it? Look for ways to level up your skill set from those who are doing it better. Despite his world-changing achievements, Dr. Tracy Hall returned to his roots and spent his final years tending to his fruit orchard in Payson, Utah, before he passed away in 2008 at the age of 88. Upon his passing, Robert M. Hansen of George Mason University said, Hall should have received a Nobel Prize for his creation of diamonds. That may be true. However, I feel Dr. Hall's true legacy can be found in how he persevered and continued to find ways to succeed despite all the obstacles thrown at him. And, like Dr. Hall, when you combine meaningfully serving others with skills and persistence in the same way, you'll get diamonds too. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Go Influence Life podcast. My hope is that you have found ways to rise above the noise, stand out from the crowd, and create lasting influence in leadership, business, and beyond. If you have found this to be helpful, please share it with someone else who could use some inspiration, motivation, and application for their own journey of success and influence. Remember, abundance of opportunity never comes from scarcity of thought. And success isn't about being outstanding, it's about standing out. How can you go influence life today? I'm your host, Christian Hansen, and until next time, God bless.